Many people over 60 still believe that drinking fresh fruit juice every day, sometimes as much as possible, is the best way to load up on vitamins and protect the heart and brain.
But the truth is, when we drink too much, the natural sugars in juice are absorbed far too quickly. Blood sugar spikes, blood vessels in the brain take the hit, and the risk of stroke climbs, especially in those already dealing with health conditions. In today's video, I'll explain exactly why overdoing fruit juice can backfire, and more importantly, how you can enjoy fruit in a way that's safe and truly beneficial. If you care about your memory and mental sharpness, make sure you watch this video through to the end. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with friends, and let me know in the comments how much juice do you usually drink each day. When we talk about sugar, most people immediately think of white sugar in candy, pastries, or soda. And almost by instinct, we assume that the sugar in fruit is automatically healthy. I'm sure many of you watching have thought the same way. How could a glass of juice a day be harmful? The main sugars in fruit are fructose and glucose. When you eat a whole piece of fruit, you're not just getting sugar, but also fiber, vitamins, and minerals. That fiber works like a protective net, slowing down how sugar enters your blood. This steady rise gives your pancreas time to release insulin and prevents your blood vessels from being overwhelmed. Now, picture the last time you squeezed a glass of orange juice. Remember how much pulp was left behind? That pulp is fiber, and most of it doesn't make it into the juice. So what you end up drinking is mostly water, vitamins, minerals, and, most importantly, a concentrated dose of sugar. Without the fiber net to slow things down, that fructose and glucose rush straight into your bloodstream, causing your blood sugar to spike within minutes. I'm sure many of you have felt this before without realizing it. After a sweet glass of juice, you feel a burst of energy, maybe even a little warm or alert. But within an hour, you're tired again, maybe even drowsy. That's the classic sugar spike and crash. For younger people, the body can recover quickly. But after 60, our systems slow down. The pancreas makes less insulin, blood vessels lose elasticity, and each sugar spike hits those vessel walls harder. Here's an easy way to think about it: like eating an apple is like pouring water through a funnel with a mesh filter. The flow is slow and steady, and the container never overflows. Drinking the juice from 2 oranges in a few gulps is like turning the faucet on full blast with no filter. The container fills too fast, and the sides strain under the pressure. In your body, those sides are your blood vessels, and this isn't a one-time problem. Many older adults drink juice daily, sometimes even twice a day, thinking it's necessary for vitamins. But when blood sugar swings up and down repeatedly, day after day, it triggers ongoing low-grade inflammation in the vessel lining. Over time, this protective inner layer erodes, raising the risk of plaque buildup and even dangerous clots, the very problems that can block or burst vessels in the brain. Have you ever wondered why, even though you drink juice faithfully and eat what you think is a healthy diet, your checkup shows high blood sugar or cholesterol? That's a clear example of what I'm describing. The key point here is that juice itself isn't bad. The problem is drinking too much, too often, while skipping whole fruits. Whole fruit provides the fiber that keeps sugar release steady and safe. Juice, especially in large glasses, delivers sugar all at once, like dropping a heavy weight on an old floor. Sooner or later, cracks appear. The way our body absorbs sugar from juice makes blood sugar rise fast and hard, straining blood vessels in ways that are especially risky after 60. That's why juice should never be seen as the more the better. If we want to stay safe, we need to understand this mechanism and adjust how much we drink. We just talked about why juice causes blood sugar to rise so quickly. But more important is understanding what actually happens inside the brain's blood vessels when sugar keeps spiking and crashing. This is the real root of why too much juice can become such a danger. When blood sugar runs high, the body faces what's called oxidative stress. In simple terms, that means an overload of free radicals, harmful molecules that act like sparks, burning and damaging cell structures. In blood vessels, these free radicals attack the endothelium, the thin inner lining that keeps blood flowing smoothly. Think of it like the protective coating inside a water pipe. As long as that coating stays intact, water flows cleanly with no rust. But once it flakes away, rust spots appear and eventually lead to blockages. In the brain's vessels, those blockages show up as plaques or blood clots, the direct culprits behind strokes. When blood sugar swings high again and again, the endothelium is constantly irritated. Inflammation sets in, immune cells rush over, and instead of repairing the area, they leave behind rough patches. That rough surface makes it easier for cholesterol to stick, speeding up plaque formation. Now think about what that means. If a plaque forms in the heart's arteries, it causes a heart attack. But if it happens in the brain's vessels, exactly it triggers a stroke. And for older adults, whose vessels are already less elastic, the risk of rupture under sudden pressure is even greater. I'm sure many of you have felt this without realizing. Maybe after a sweet juice, your heart raced, your face felt flushed, or you got a bit lightheaded. That's your body struggling with a sugar surge, while your brain's vessels are under strain at the very same moment. Here's the tricky part. Damage in the brain's blood vessels often happens silently. No pain, no warning. People only notice once a stroke strikes sudden weakness on one side of the body or slurred speech. That's why we cannot afford to be complacent. Medical research over the past decade has shown that people with wide swings in blood sugar, even those not diagnosed with diabetes, face a much higher risk of stroke compared to those with stable levels. That makes controlling sugar in our diet, including fruit juice, absolutely critical. So let me pause and ask, do any of you replace your light breakfast with a daily glass of juice? If so, share in the comments whether it's orange, grape, or apple so we can take a high blood sugar count on a lab test. It's a shockwave through the brain's blood vessels, driving oxidative stress, eroding the vessel lining, fueling plaque buildup, and laying the groundwork for stroke. And the unsettling truth is that all of this can unfold silently, fueled by what seems like a harmless habit, drinking juice every day. When we talk about the harms of juice, many people think, I don't have diabetes, so I should be fine. That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes some overlook the real danger. In fact, those with conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol are the ones most at risk when juice is overused. Let's start with diabetes. In a healthy person, insulin acts like a key, unlocking the door so sugar can move from the blood into cells for energy. But in diabetes, that key is either worn out or too scarce, which means sugar lingers in the blood. Now imagine a person with diabetes drinking a sweet glass of orange juice in the morning. Their blood sugar is already high, and the juice pushes it even higher, delivering a shock to the vessels. If this happens again and again, the damage to the vessel lining progresses far faster than in someone without diabetes. For those with high blood pressure, the problem is even more complicated. Their blood vessels are already under constant pressure, and the vessel walls can easily develop tiny cracks. When blood sugar spikes after a glass of juice, free radicals flood in, stirring up inflammation in that fragile lining. A vessel wall that's already weak gets hit with another insult, and the risk of a brain vessel bursting multiplies. It's like a water pipe that's already under heavy pressure suddenly being splashed with corrosive acid. It's only a matter of time before something gives way. Now consider those with high cholesterol, specifically high LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol. Sweet juice becomes the perfect catalyst for trouble. Once the vessel lining is damaged, LDL sticks easily, forming plaque. Fluctuating blood sugar speeds up a process called glycation, which makes LDL particles stickier, fastening themselves more tightly to the vessel wall. The result is plaque that grows faster and thicker, narrowing the blood vessels and restricting blood flow to the brain. A stroke could be triggered by something as simple as physical exertion or a sudden overnight rise in blood pressure. I know many of you watching fall into one of these groups, and maybe some of you have had the experience of going to your regular checkup, only to hear the doctor say, You need to cut back on sweets, while still believing that fruit juice doesn't count. The truth is, that very assumption speeds up disease progression and raises your stroke risk. Has anyone here noticed their blood sugar or cholesterol creeping up even while thinking you were eating healthy with lots of fruit juice? If so, please share in the comments. Your story could be the wake-up call someone else needs. The damage from juice in people with underlying conditions doesn't come from 1 or 2 glasses. It comes from the habit, repeated for months or years. It's like drops of water falling on a stone. You won't see anything after a day, but over years, even stone will wear down. In your body, that wear and tear shows up as irreversible damage to the brain's blood vessels. So what does this mean? It means that if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, cutting back on sweet juice isn't optional. It's essential. You can still eat whole fruit, because the fiber helps keep sugar under control. But large, frequent glasses of juice should be avoided. Put simply, for a healthy person, juice can be harmful if overused. But for someone with an existing condition, juice becomes the spark that can ignite a stroke at any moment, and once that event happens, there's no turning back. Many people still ask, if juice comes from fruit, why wouldn't it be just as good as eating the whole fruit? First, it seems illogical after all. An orange is an orange, a pear is a pear. But once you press it into juice, the story changes. Let's break down why. The biggest difference is fiber. In whole fruit, fiber is found in the peel, the pulp, and sometimes even the seeds. Fiber doesn't just slow down how sugar is absorbed into the blood. It also helps you feel full longer, which prevents overeating. But once fruit is juiced, most of that fiber is discarded with the pulp. What you're left with is mostly liquid packed with sugar and vitamins, which the body absorbs far more quickly. Think about it, eating an apple takes a few minutes of chewing, swallowing, and digesting. But turn those apples into juice, and in just a few gulps you've consumed the sugar from 2 or 3 apples. That's a load of sugar the body has to process all at once, causing blood sugar to rise much higher than if you had eaten the fruit whole. Whole fruit also benefits digestion in ways juice cannot. Soluble fiber in fruit acts as food for the good bacteria in your gut, supporting a healthier microbiome and improving nutrient absorption. Drinking juice too often, on the other hand, floods the gut with concentrated sugar, which can upset that balance, sometimes causing bloating or even diarrhea. There's another subtle but important point. When you eat fruit whole, nutrients like vitamin C, polyphenols, and anthocyanins work together with the fiber. That natural teamwork helps your body absorb and use nutrients more steadily. With juice, you lose that balance. Instead, your body is forced to handle a big wave of free sugar, which puts added stress on both the liver and the blood vessels. Let me ask you, in a typical week, how many times do you eat whole fruit? And how many times do you reach for juice instead? Drop your answers in the comments. I suspect many will be surprised to realize their habits lean much more toward juice, all while believing they're doing something healthy. Take oranges as an example. A medium orange contains about 12 grams of sugar, but thanks to its fiber, that sugar enters your bloodstream slowly. Drink a glass of orange juice made from 3 oranges, and that's 36 grams of sugar in just a few minutes, nearly as much as a can of soda. That's exactly why doctors so often recommend eating the fruit rather than drinking the juice. For older adults, this difference matters even more. After 60, the body simply can't regulate blood sugar as flexibly as it once could. Each sudden spike adds to the wear and tear on the brain's blood vessels. Choosing whole fruit over juice isn't just a matter of diet preference. It's a genuine way to lower stroke risk. Of course, eating whole fruit isn't always convenient. Sometimes chewing is difficult, or digestion isn't as strong. In those cases, juice can still be an option, but in small amounts, ideally diluted with water, or paired with a little extra fiber, like a spoonful of oats. The key takeaway is this: juice isn't inherently bad. But when compared directly, whole fruit is much safer and far more beneficial. The advantage lies in the fiber. the slower digestion, and the balanced way your body receives nutrients. After going through how sugar in juice works, its effects on the brain's blood vessels, the special risks for people with health conditions, and the difference between juice and whole fruit, I'm sure many of you are now wondering, so should I cut juice out completely? The answer is not necessarily. What matters is knowing how to use it wisely. The first thing to remember is portion size. For adults over 60, a reasonable amount is about 100 to 150 milliliters, roughly half a small glass, and not every day. 2 to 3 times a week is safer than making it a daily habit. That way, you can still enjoy the vitamins juice provides without sending your blood sugar on a roller coaster. Next comes timing. Many people drink juice on an empty stomach, thinking it helps with absorption. But that's when sugar hits the bloodstream the fastest, causing sharp spikes. A safer time is after a meal or snack, when food in the stomach slows down sugar absorption. Let me ask you, when do you usually drink juice first thing in the morning, after lunch? Or later in the evening? Share your routine in the comments so we can see which habits are healthier. Here's a small trick I often recommend: dilute juice with water. For example, if you squeeze 1 orange, instead of drinking it straight, add half a glass of water. It still tastes refreshing but lowers the sugar load in every sip. You can also mix juice with low-sugar vegetables like cucumber or celery to balance nutrition. Another thing to keep in mind is the type of fruit. Some are naturally high in sugar like grapes, ripe mangoes, and pineapple, and they can make blood sugar rise quickly. If you choose to drink juice, go for lower sugar fruits such as grapefruit, green apples, strawberries, or tart oranges. They still provide vitamins but are gentler on your blood sugar. And one simple but important rule is don't add sugar or condensed milk. This habit is common, especially at juice stands. Fruit already has natural sugar. Adding refined sugar doubles the strain on your blood vessels. So if you order juice outside, make sure to say no sugar for your own protection. There's also a special note for those taking medication for diabetes, high blood pressure, or cholesterol. For you, juice should only be included with your doctor's guidance, since certain drugs can react poorly with high sugar intake. Don't hesitate to ask your doctor if that's the best way to make your diet truly safe and personalized. And finally, the most important mindset: keep juice in its rightful place. It's not a miracle cure for youth or disease prevention. It's simply one supplemental drink. Brain and vascular health depend on many other pillars: a balanced diet, regular physical activity, good sleep, and managing existing conditions. If you ignore those and rely only on juice, no amount will give you real protection. To sum it up, older adults can still enjoy juice, but with 4 key rules in mind: keep the portions small, choose the right timing, pick low-sugar fruits, and never add extra sugar. Follow these steps, and you'll not only enjoy the refreshing taste of fruit, but also safeguard your brain and blood vessels. We've just walked through a complete picture of fruit juice and its impact on brain health. Each point has shown us that what seems harmless can, in fact, carry hidden risks if used the wrong way. First, the natural sugars in juice are absorbed too quickly without fiber, sending blood sugar soaring. Second, those repeated sugar spikes damage the inner lining of brain vessels, fueling inflammation and plaque, paving the way for stroke. Third, for people with conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, juice becomes an even more dangerous trigger. Fourth, compared to juice, eating whole fruit is far safer and more beneficial because it keeps the fiber, vitamins, and natural balance intact. And finally, juice still has a place when used wisely in small amounts. Not every day. Made from lower sugar fruits, diluted with water, and never with added sugar. The key message I want you to remember is this: juice is not the enemy, but if overused, it can become a factor that pushes you closer to stroke. Brain and vascular health after 60 depends on the small choices we make daily, and how you handle juice is one of those choices. If you found today's video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and loved ones so we can all protect ourselves from stroke through simple habits. And I'd love to hear from you. What kind of juice do you usually drink? And after this video, are you ready to adjust your habits to protect your memory and blood vessels?